now from our studios in Lagos by the National Publicity Secretary of the Obi Kwankwaso movement, Justin EJ. Let me ask you, first of all, is the Obi Kwankwaso movement a genuine coalition for national reform or a strategic vehicle to secure the presidential ticket for Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso within the ADC?
Thank you for that question, Charles. I don't think you can separate those two things one from the other. You need a strategic vehicle in order to be able to deliver strategic reforms. So you cannot choose one from the other. So the answer to the question is yes, it is a strategic vehicle because you do need one to contest for electoral positions. And secondly, yes, the ultimate objective is national reform.
Well, as you mentioned there, at the heart of this movement are two strong political figures. Which one of them leads and who steps aside if it comes to that? Because alliances often collapse at the point of decision. I mean, we've heard that, Peter Obi is getting the ticket and Kwankwaso is his running mate, but we haven't heard that spoken of decisively in the public arena. Have they already agreed who takes the ticket, or is that battle still ahead?
What is central to the issue is if both of these men decide to fuse their political forces together, if the party decides that an Obi Kwankwaso alliance is what, as the Nigerian people are obviously asking for, is the best foot forward in the coming elections, then we are absolutely here to tell everyone and to remind everyone of why that is so. As to the down-to-the-wire decisions, we will leave those announcements to be made by the principals themselves. I will not take it upon myself to do that.
Yeah, but the operative word that I'm hearing from you is if. You're saying if the two sides decide to get together, if the two men decide to come together. So on what basis, I mean, what is the context of you merging the two groups or coming up with an Obi Kwankwaso movement when you don't even know who's going to have the ticket?
You're proceeding on a false premise, Charles. I didn't say if both men. I said if the party decides that the combination of those two people on one ticket is what it wants to move forward with. That's what I said. I didn't say if both men. Both men have agreed on an alliance. The permutations of that alliance, like I said, because the specific question you asked was, who leads the ticket and who backs up the ticket? And I am saying to you that even if I were privy to that information, I think it is right that the principals themselves will make that announcement by themselves at the appropriate time. And I believe that is something that you would understand.
Well, to be quite clear, you did say at the outset that if they decide that they're going to get together, I mean, that's the whole point of having things said. I mean, it's there, it's for the record. But let's move on from there.
Can you hear me, Charles?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
So for clarity's sake, if I was misunderstood or if I misstated earlier, both principals have decided to work together, clearly. To avoid, without any equivocation, I am stating that clearly. Both principals have come into an alliance together.
Right. Well, from what I understand, that there will be an attempt to reach a consensus. And if that attempt fails, then they will go for primaries. And the way that it is looking, with all the people, the different sort of potential candidates, Atiku Abubakar, Rotimi Amechi, Peter Obi, and all the rest of them, even Aminu Tambuwal, none of them seem to be talking about consensus or giving way. So that raises questions about the kind of unity that will be formed if you have to go into a very disputatious primary having disagreed about a consensus candidate. And it raises the question of whether the ADC coalition will become inclusive, which is the impression that we're being given, or purely selective, which would make it much more divisive.
So I don't think there's anything in that process that can be predetermined to be disputatious. Obviously, it's a contest, and everybody who submits himself or herself to the contest implicitly submits to also the outcome of that contest. They are not political neophytes. Like you said, there are a lot of political heavyweights in the running, and the expectation is that the hope is that a consensus position is arrived at. Now, failing that, like you rightly said, we will go on to primaries. The whole point of a coalition is that everybody, what is implicit in a coalition is that everybody cannot be on the ticket. It must narrow down to one person or two people in a joint ticket. Every commitment that has been made by every one of these leaders that I have heard is that whatever the outcome is, they will be supporting whoever gets the ticket. And I think that we should take that into account. I do not think that we can assume, or we should assume, that if one person gets the ticket, then the coalition falls apart. Obviously, coming into the coalition, everybody knows that one person is going to get the ticket, right? So it's sort of foregone conclusion. I have watched the rhetoric coming out of all parties, and I think there are very mature gentlemen that are committed to what the greater goal is, which is a better Nigeria than the one we have today.
Well, let's move beyond the general, the sort of ADC personalities, to the particular, which is the Obi Kwankwaso movement that you're the National Publicity Secretary of. What is the ideological foundation of this movement? What binds Obidients and Kwankwasiyya beyond the desire to win power? Because if it's not rooted in shared principles, isn't this just a temporary alliance of convenience?
Brilliant. Now, as you would have heard, quoting His Excellency Peter Obi, first of all, as you would have heard him say on various fora, he is not running for power for the sake of power itself. It's a means to an end. And what is that end? And this is where the fusion of ideologies between both men come in, and which is what we stand for. We want a Nigeria that works for everybody and not for some people. We want a Nigeria that respects the dignity of the Nigerian person. We want a Nigeria that institutions are allowed to perform their roles without political interference, where we can draw a very distinct line between politics, politicking, and governance. We believe in a Nigeria where safety and security of all citizens is guaranteed and seen to be worked for by the government. We want a Nigeria where the voices of the people who are being led are actually taken into account in the formulation of government policies. We want economic policies that are people first and people friendly, not profit oriented, not based on extraction. These are the things that bring these two gentlemen together. These are the things that we believe in. When we say that a new Nigeria is possible, when we say that Nigeria will be okay, this is what we mean.
Of course, even though you are the National Publicity Secretary of this new movement, you are in fact an Obidient. You're not a member of the Kwankwasiyya movement. So to some extent, what you can say about them and for them is limited. And in Nigerian politics, I mean, you're not a northerner either, are you? I mean, in Nigerian politics, there is that ethnic, sort of tribal and religious elements that always comes in. Nigerian elections, I'm sure you know, which is one of the reasons why you're seeking an alliance, are often defined by these very factors. How do you realistically overcome that, since you don't have any direct control over the Kwankwasiyya movement? I mean, there's no guarantee at this point. I mean, I don't know if you've got any figures of how many Kwankwasiyya people have actually officially joined the movement that you're talking about. Because, I mean, in a country where there's a lot about identity politics, that's a very important issue, isn't it?
You are correct, Charles, to a certain extent, that in the political rhetoric in Nigeria, religion and ethnic orientation have become way, way too prevalent in the discourse. But here's the reality that everyday Nigerians live, Charles, and I will come back to the core of your question. Today, I filled up my tank. I intended to fill up my gas tank, and I spent 50,000 naira and it wasn't full because the pump price was 1,300 and some fractions, right? That has no bearing. The fuel attendant didn't ask me what ethnicity I am or what religion I believe in. The point I'm making is that the sufferings of Nigerians, the travails that Nigerians are going through under the failed administration of the failed policies of the Tinubu administrations do not lend themselves to those kinds of conversations. We are united in the suffering. Children went to write JAMB on Saturday and never made it. This is the reality of the country we live in. Nobody in their right minds should be thinking along the lines of tribe and religion. But like you said, it has become a feature in Nigerian politics, and hopefully we will get to a point someday when it will not be the centerpiece. But is it the reality of the discourse today? Yes, to a large extent it is, and it would be naive to run away from that. But I'm just saying what I'm saying as a reminder to people about the things that actually matter. Competence, capacity, and character transcend tribe, right? They transcend religion. The man who slaughters people who he has kidnapped into the bush on some roadside doesn't ask them what religion, what tribe. The suffering is ubiquitous. It's common to all of us. The pain of poverty, the pain of poor medical health care does not respect religious profession or ethnic affiliation, Mr. Charles. And this is the reality that Nigerians must face up to. And we must allow our politics and our democracy to mature up to the extent that we begin to put first things first and not allow certain considerations to cloud our objective realities.
Right, let me ask you this, Mr. EJ. What happens if this alliance fractures? Do you have a plan B, or does the entire movement collapse with it? Because, as I said, I mean, you're neither Obidient nor Kwankwasiyya. You're a new movement that's trying to fuse the two groups together.
That would not be, that would not be a correct characterization. There's a nuance that you've missed there. Earlier on, when you asked the penultimate question, you said, judging by the look, that I must be obedient. And you were right. I am the South-South spokesperson for the Obedient movement. Currently, I still retain that function of service. And so I have not ceased to be obedient because I am working in the OK movement. If anything, I'm an ambassador of the Obedient movement to the OK movement, and that's the way that you need to look at it, right? We are not working at cross purposes. Everything that I do in my current in the hat that I'm wearing as I sit here as publicity secretary for the OK movement cannot be divorced from my role, my active role in the Obedient movement. Same for my colleagues who are coming from the Kwankwasiyya movement. What we are creating is a synergy of both groups, essentially.
My question is, why launch this movement now? Are you shaping the race early or reacting to growing pressure within the ADC? Because that is your first port of call before you then reach out to the rest of the country.
Oh, yes. I mean, you can attribute motive, Mr. Charles, but everything happens in sequences of time. Are we under pressure? No. Maybe we are the ones applying pressure, who knows? But at the point where an accord had been reached between the two principals, some of us began to think about how best to now sell the joint ticket, as it were? How do we advance the conversation of the joint ticket? Now, as we all know, the Obedient movement is Peter Obi, the Kwankwasiyya movement is Rabiu Kwankwaso. But here we have these two gentlemen coming together. And so, where the intention is not to collapse the Obedient movement or the Kwankwasiyya movement because they must maintain their distinct entities, we then needed a vehicle that allows the expression of the aspirations of both men that we support in these two different movements. Does that put the party under pressure? We would hope that it is not received as pressure. We would hope that our advocacy, which is what it is at the end of the day, we would hope that our advocacy is received in good faith as people who are speaking for what they see to be the best option, in our opinion, for what the party should put forward. When you go for a competition, when you are in any competitive process, you put your best players first. You put your best foot forward. And it is our considered view that the combination of Mr. Peter Obi and Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso is an election-winning combination. No holds barred.
On that note, I want to thank you very much